Hey, good evening, everybody. This is your favorite daddy warlock, John Michael Salvato, and you're watching The Brew, a program that is devoted entirely to queer spirituality, culture, and news and insights. And when we start these programs, I always like to let folks know that when we say queer spirituality, we're not just talking about the LGBTQ community, we're talking about our community and our allies and anyone who marches to a different drum. And so tonight we're going to gain insight into the use of the Elder Futhark runes as an adjunct to Reiki healing. You are not going to want to miss this insightful and really, I think, fun discussion of what happens when you bring past life energies and past life knowledge together to a current pagan practice. And our guests will be Jeffrey and Chris Ann Nelson. And I probably should have asked if they both use the same last name. So I probably will be in trouble for that intuitively. That just feels like that didn't come out right. But we'll be back right after this. And so before I even start introducing, Chris Ann, do you use Nelson as your last name?
No, I don't. Your intuition was spot on.
I knew it as the words were coming out of my mouth.
That's okay.
So I apologize.
She's been called worse.
So have I. Well, first I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys that who may not be familiar, those of us that are part of the Brothers of the Craft, we have gotten to know a little bit about Jeffrey. But Jeffrey's an ordained minister, a Reiki Master, and mage whose path includes channeling, past life insight, and intuitive work, as well as his innovative use that I talked about before the intro of the Elder Futhark runes in Galder Rune Enhanced Reiki, which is something that I think is going to be extremely interesting to hear about. Because it involves singing the runes. And so in the group, we've been talking about the impact of music and tones and vibration in our spiritual traditions and how that fleshes out for us. And so as somebody who does a lot of work with vibrational healing and a lot of work with vibrational frequency healing, I'm really excited to hear the details. And with Jeffrey tonight is Chris Ann, his business partner and wife or spouse. I don't know what that. I should have asked all of these questions ahead of time.
Wife is correct.
Okay, good. And I'm actually going to let you start off, Chris Ann, by telling us a little bit about your path and about your business as well, so that folks know. And when we're done with the show, if you would just go ahead in the comments and put a link to the shop and ways that folks can be in touch with both of you, that'd be fantastic.
Sure, thank you. So I'm Chris Ann. I am a psychic. I've been speaking to the dead since the age of 3, and I've been reading with traditional tarot since the age of 5. I've been reading for other people since the age of 8, and I do my readings in the Akashic Records, which is your soul's history, your soul's past lives. I see what happened then and how it correlates to what's going on now. I'm also a medium, so I speak to those on the other side. I do animal communication, both living and deceased. I do your regular psychic stuff, past, present, and future. When I read with cards, if I read with cards, I read with 20 plus decks at once. And I'm a teacher. I teach all of the above. I am a Reiki Master teacher. He's my star student. I'm an artist, and we co-own the area's largest metaphysical shop and healing center here in Wells, Maine. And we have a blast. We love what we do, and we do it together, which makes it even more special.
Absolutely.
And Jeffrey, tell us anything that I might have missed in introducing you as well.
You got pretty much everything. I started at an early age as well. I was raised Roman Catholic during the time when they had their spiritual movement with the Holy Ghost, and that didn't go out all that well for me because I actually started channeling the Holy Spirit, and the older priests were kind of taken aback, and next thing I know, at 12 years old, I'm being accused of being possessed by the devil and all kinds of wonderful things. And so that kind of put a damper on it for a little while. I wasn't welcome in that church that much anymore, which was okay, you know. I was okay with that. But, you know, I went into the military after graduating high school, and boot camp was rather stressful for me with all the rules and all the head games and everything else. I actually had an incident where I had to switch companies and get moved to another building because during meditating, I actually levitated. At least that's what the screaming guys were telling me. I didn't know. I'm meditating, and next thing I know, all these guys are screaming, and they're making the sign of the cross and all this stuff. And so time for me to go again.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Because nothing protects you from magic like more magic.
yeah, right. So anyway, I love to do channeling. I am of the mindset that the energy beings that I work with, whether they're termed gods, angels, whatever they simply are people of other realms. Yeah, they're more powerful than most of us, but on the same token, the only thing they require from us is to be treated with respect, the same respect that we should show each other. They have no desire to be worshipped. Actually, they kind of get ticked off because they feel like it's more of a means of people trying to control them. And they don't like being controlled any more than we do.
That's so interesting that you say that, because this being a time when many traditions really focus additional energy, additional effort on honoring the ancestors. We've said on the last few shows when we've had another psychic who works with the Akashic records, and we've had a group of folks talking about cultural appropriation at this time of celebrating the Festival of Shadows and the Day of the Dead and Samhain and for those Christo pagans, Halloween and All Saints and All Souls. And we a lot of times forget that intimate relationship that we cultivate with the ancestors, with our ancestors, also includes what some of us call the old ones. And the old ones are our spiritual ancestors. I call them the ancestors of heart. And that for me includes what people call the gods and the goddesses and the demigods and all of that, because when you do what you said and take it down a notch in terms of the worship and bowing and scraping, which no one's going to convince me because it didn't exist prior to the 20th century. No one's going to convince me that this attitude of bowing and scraping isn't a throwback to the Abrahamic traditions and the fear and baggage that people bring to their spiritual paths. So when you put all that stuff aside, all that's left is intimacy, and that's when you get the good stuff. Because when we love somebody, and we're in a relationship with somebody, that's where the good stuff comes in the relationship. It's no different there. Would you say that's right, or not been your experience, or what?
I totally agree. And when I do channel and they do help me, it's a partnership, like comrades. And in fact, after we're done, I toast them and thank them for their help. And I toast our success and what we accomplished together.
Right on.
So, to me, it doesn't make any sense to bow and scrape. In fact, if you think about it, from everything that we know of the Nordic gods, they frowned on that greatly. If you showed any sign of weakness, then, it was a big no-no. So,
Right. So let's talk a little bit about this tradition before we get into actually what it is and how you do what you do. Let's talk about the fact that we started to talk before the show about the fact that these are not traditions that somebody just handed you a package and said this is it. This
right.
is this is an evolutionary process in really sort of refining and honing your healing work spiritually, and as a mage, drawing on the past lives and drawing on, I'm certain, with your beautiful wife, being able to dig into the Akashic records to do the homework behind the work.
Right.
And in regards to that, I like to tell people I respect my ancestors, but I am also my ancestors because I travel to past lives. The first time that it happened, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was so traumatic when I woke up from this dream, this past life dream. I was in mourning. I was crying. I had just finished doing um, funeral rites for my wife, who had been shot in the back by an arrow during a Viking raid. And from that point on, I kept having that dream. And I would focus on how I was doing the ritual. I had all the emotion. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was inscribing the runes in the sand on the beach with the intention of the waves coming in, carrying my desires to the gods as they washed out. And from there, it just progressed into other lifetimes and so on. But at that time, in that time, I did worship Odin. I did worship Thor, all of them, and they were all part of my daily rituals as the holy man for my clan. But in the modern times, I pulled all that I did then forward to now. I kind of got rid of the worship thing because it didn't serve. It didn't serve them. It didn't serve me, and it went contrary to what I know from interacting with them, channeling.
Right.
So basically, what I did was I took Galdar. First, I'll start with the Elder Futhark runes. I use the Elder Futhark, which is I've heard about 7,000-year-old language, and it's completely different than how we're conversing now. One rune derived its meaning from the next rune, which they both derived their meaning from the third rune. So it was kind of like a story unfolding. So they spoke in parables, they spoke in poems, they transferred knowledge and information through the first bards. And these bards would sing these poems or Eddas, as Galdar, which is a voicing of the runes.
So would you say that Goldar is similar to the way that we see in many traditions, sort of the chanting, almost like Mantrayana for the Hindus, or perhaps the chanting of the Torah for the Hebrew tradition. Is it that sort of thing? Was it something the Vitki did for the
Yes,
people? Okay.
yes. And so it's funny you mention that because in one of my past lives I was Indian. And now when I do my Galdar, it is in mantra form. So
And your, as I understand, your chakras are involved as well.
yes. So each chakra has a determination of what specific rune is represented. First of all, Reiki in itself is all about 3 layers of self. It's our physical self, our emotional self, and our spiritual self. When I do my Rune Reiki, I create bind runes of 3 and insert these runes into the 3 selves, the 3 levels of self, as a bind rune to bring about healing to all 3 levels of self. But in order to do that, I also have kind of a strange gift as well, that I see vibrational energy. I don't just see it with my eyes, I see it with my mind, I see it with my ears, I see it with my whole being. Like many people will see someone's aura in color. I see it all as vibrational energy. And anything that has protons and neutrons and cells creates vibrational energy. I am actually a worker of the light, the sun. A lot of witches are into the darkness and the moon phase and all of this. I just tell people, the moon is a pale reflection of the sun's energy. So,
yeah, keep doing that.
But the radiation from the sun, when it hits the cells that surround us, all the different atoms, it increases their energy and they vibrate the more. So being able to see that energy and hear that energy, I'm able to draw from that energy and manipulate it and change it. We did a group healing together where I was, you may have seen some of the pictures I posted from my altar. I was channeling. At the same time, there were 11 of us Reiki practitioners joined together all over the country to heal a young man that had been diagnosed of terminal Lyme disease. And he hadn't even, it broke my heart. He hadn't even graduated high school yet.
And they had already given him a timeline.
And so anyway, it was really powerful for me because, as you know, manifestation is all about emotional, how much emotion you can bring to bear in regards to what you want to accomplish. And I saw the cells of his body with all that energy passing through me. He was here in Maine. I was in Phoenix. I could actually physically see his DNA and the cells in his body, and I could pick out the discordance. You're a musician. The discordance of the vibration of his cells.
It stands right out to you. You can't miss it when you know what to look for.
Right.
And so basically what I did was I just tuned him. I brought him into tune. And that was it. He's still alive today, 5 years later.
It was actually almost, it was over 5 years.
Yeah. 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And he's doing well. He had damage that had been permanently done, but he is doing well. He's alive. He's leading a productive life.
Yeah.
So
right on.
That's a wonderful thing.
But and distance really isn't an issue, because with this energy, just like the distance between us and the sun, we feel the sun's energy when it's hitting us. There's, from me to you, is like you're from the distance of the sun, you may as well be sitting in my lap,
right.
As far as distance goes.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Distance
intention is intention. Energy is energy.
Yeah. And it is all one, and it is, I think that I know we were having fun with it, but the difference in our orientations of you to the cycles of the sun, and me, for example, of the cycles of the moon. The difference in that, I think, is part of what makes that work, because we had a Reiki circle, of a bunch of my students that we decided we were going to have a retreat, really just because we needed a vacation. And we said, while we're here, we are getting the tax write-off. Let's do some work. And all of us knew people that really needed that extra work. And it was the first time that, sitting in a circle, I made a comment about, it's the fact that it was a new moon. And so a few of my brothers and sisters scoffed, and I said, okay, let's stop and let's talk about that right now, because that feels like what we need to do as family. And because I know you're kidding, I know you're just trying to bust my chops, but there's, every time we kid, there's a little thread of our own truth that's trying to express itself. And I said, so let's talk about that. And what we decided, and again, for those that are watching, this isn't the truth. This is my truth. But
Same here.
we decided that was why we worked, because those who work in the sun, and I see Scott McKinney is just joined us, who's in the midst of his Shadow Fest celebration. He said right on about the vibrational healing energies from soul. So you got another sun brother there. And we decided that because those who work in the sun have a very specific gift that is completely different from those of us that work by moon.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You are able to see that frequency even though you are surrounded by light frequencies all around you, where those of us that work in the moon are working with reflected frequencies, and we're there to be the amplifier. So the difference between, I tell people, the difference between a magician and a witch is that the magician is working with the sun, they're working with the masculine, they're working with fire. The witch works with moon and water, and we're there to amplify those, and that's what makes it work. Is we know that in music, there's a person can certainly sing and send those vibrations out, and those vibrations from their voice will reach around the world. But if they're amplified, they'll reach around the world faster. And so it's part of that synergy, the animus and anima, or the male and female, yin and yang. So why don't you show us, if you don't mind, a little? You said you were going to do a demonstration.
Sure.
I hope you meant that for real, because
Yeah.
I'm going to put you back on full screen so folks
I
get an
don't.
idea. And if you're watching, folks that are watching live right now, if you have any questions, either for Chris Ann or for Jeffrey, please go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll get them up on the screen so that we could talk about that as well. And I'm going to get off the screen and let you go full screen.
Okay, well, first I'll explain that I am not a professional musician nor a professional singer. So if you're counting on me having a beautiful voice, you came to the wrong place. So what I would like to do in this demonstration is I would like to, because I don't have the permission of everybody watching, what I would like to do is just bring in positive energy for you. I would like to bring in renewed peace as well as comfort. I would like to provide you with comfort. And to do that, I am going to use a rune called Gabo. Now, Gabo looks like an X, and it basically brings in all good outcome. There is no downside to Gabo. Gabo. So if there was somebody that needed something specific and they were willing to, then we could address that as well.
We can't see the chat.
Right. Yeah. Well, you can when I put it up. If somebody
Oh,
has
okay.
if somebody has it, something specific, right? I know we have 5 people that are on live now. We had 12 at the beginning, but if life happens and people come back and watch this on the
Right.
replay, so there will be we know historically about 100 to 150 people in the first 24 to 48 hours watching the show. So if you weren't here live, you missed out. Let me just say.
Actually, they didn't, because when it is recorded, because I'm using vibrational energy, it comes through again.
I know, but we don't have to let them know. That'll be our secret. You missed. They missed out on being able to ask you, specifically. I can tell you that was really powerful. Having been around Reiki practitioners for the last 20 years, there and pushing the envelope and trying all kinds of crazy things. As we do, because once you understand how it works, you're like, well, especially if you're using some of Mother Nature's finest herbs from the ganja, that tendency to say, hey, I wonder what would happen if dot dot dot. So I've done lots of Reiki sessions where it was distance Reiki and then distance Reiki augmented by video and distance Reiki augmented by vibrational frequencies playing in the house. That was so wild. And really, I know that I don't have to tell this to the people that are watching, because I know that they will have felt it as well. It was such a calming and stilling energy that for me as an autistic person was like a blanket. It was, normally Reiki will energize me and it makes, it'll bring balance and alignment, but it makes me a little more hyper or excuse me, hyper is not even a good word for it, but it really awakens me and it charges me. That was the very first time someone has done Reiki that it was for me as an autistic person. I don't know if all autistic people are like this, but my go-to when I'm spiraling or melting down is a blanket. I want to be under heavy blankets. When I sleep at night, it could be the middle of summer, there has to be weight to that bed on top of me, or else I won't go to sleep. I'll stay up all night and think and dream and play with the gods, and it's that's just how I'm wired. But you put a heavy blanket on me and it brings me to that calmness. So when I would meditate when I was abbot for Sarvodaya Abbey, I would meditate with a heavy blanket on, and people would say, "You're in the middle of the desert, and why do you have that blanket on? You're gonna just schwitz to death." And really, that wasn't what happened. It was comforting, and you just did that with your Rune enhanced Reiki. So that was fucking amazing. It was really just awesome.
I'm very grounded. I'm very grounded, and I really like working with people that have PTSD and all of that, because they do need that calming energy.
And you've got a message there on the screen from Scott, who said that he got transported to what looked like a chamber of stone where it vibrated deep within. Yeah, that's the kind of feeling.
If it was stone, it was definitely me.
He's a stone carver.
I carve stone. So.
Right on. So we were also talking a little bit about the differences in our spiritual tradition, and if you guys don't mind, we really only have a minute to go on our imaginary 30-minute mark that never happens. We never keep to that 30 minutes, so we're probably not going to do it tonight either. but I thought this would also be a great opportunity for us to talk about what it is that we're doing with the Brotherhood itself, in bringing together, calling men from around the craft, from different traditions, to come together. We know that social media is not short. We have one of our other wonderful friends and viewers here, Steph, who's part of a program that I'm doing right now called A Year of Thinking Magically, or yeah, a, a year of thinking magically. Yeah. And so Steph says peaceful. Yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it, Steph? Um, so what we're doing with Brothers of the Craft is bringing together guys who say, yeah, I know social media has no shortage of Facebook groups or the witches of Instagram or whatever else is out there, where there's kind of superficial fluff and a meme fest and fluffy bunny pictures and unicorns and rainbows and pretty witches and guys scantily clad male witches. But at the end of the day, that doesn't do shit to make us better practitioners. And so I really appreciate the fact that you're coming together, because it's really an evolution. One of the folks that you'll meet, who's been a guest on the show, a friend of the show, and actually did a turnabout one day and decided he was going to interview me on the show, so that somebody could talk about my book. And his name is Dr. Terry Drew Karanen, and we were talking about the fact that a lot of our lives have been spent working exclusively with the LGBTQ community, because it was underserved, and especially in pagan circles, it was underserved. But now we're really kind of coming into our own, and as it would happen, now that we're coming into our own, we're finding ourselves restless and saying, you know what, labels don't work for us anymore. And it's not that we're all suddenly becoming bisexual. It has nothing to do with sex. It has to do with wanting to connect with that male energy and saying there is no difference for my heterosexual brothers or my bisexual brothers or my transsexual brothers or my asexual brothers when we're practicing the craft, because it's energy. And just as there's no difference, we've said for years there was no difference between us and our female counterparts. We've really kind of shunned those non-gay males. And in what I see in the neo-pagan tradition, and one of the reasons I'm not involved in that, other than coming from a hereditary tradition, I couldn't get involved in the world of covens and neo-pagans and Wiccan and all that. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but I just felt like the energy was imbalanced, and I felt like the majority of that's where I found the majority of my straight male practitioner friends doing their work, but they were sort of relegated to this second class because of the legend and myth of the god and goddess and the whole worship thing. When I thought, gosh, if these people would just go to India and spend some time with a practitioner of the Vajrayana tradition and really experience what power there can be when you merge those energies, and when you're able to really cultivate the strength of both of those energies. I have a vested interest as a gay man who's two-spirit person. I'm non-binary, and although I physically present as a gay man, I internally am non-binary, and I have a vested interest in seeing your practice be strengthened, as well as Chris Ann's practice be strengthened, because I dance in both worlds. And until we have a stronger, healthy, healed community, then all of us have to suffer the imbalance to that energy, because it's one energy. It's just like a graphic equalizer. And if you walk past the graphic equalizer and throw a couple of the buttons up willy-nilly, and then you try to listen to Dark Side of the Moon, it's going to suck. But if they're in balance, it's a masterpiece.
I agree with that. I'm going to speak to that because we are all about community here. All communities. And I'm happy to say that we have a little bit of everybody that comes in here. And I don't care how you identify as, I just want you to be comfortable. I want you to be welcomed. And you can figure out your stuff. I don't care. We don't care.
Right.
You know, that's not up to us. It's not up to society.
Well, our shop is in our home.
Right.
And the entrance into our shop, you come in our kitchen door. We invite you in as family, as friends. Those that could pass the protection.
Right.
And the 2 chihuahuas.
Yeah, 2 chihuahuas, yeah. But when we found this place, it's a 300-year-old house.
Wow.
And when I started doing the remodeling work and replumbed it, I set it up so we would have an instant hot water machine that when people come in, it may be snowing outside, but come on in, fix yourself a cup of tea or coffee, go sit on the couch in the crystal room, read a book. You're in our house. We don't have a super high overhead.
Right.
If you just need to come here and recharge, come on in.
Hang out with me for the day. Maybe just a crystal or 2.
Nice.
So,
but you know, community is community, and it saddens me to see that I don't care what you're identified as. Everybody has something against everybody else, what it seems to be. So there needs to be more welcoming places.
Yeah.
And we need to recognize too, just I think one of the things that the kind of work that you do, both in the shop and the Reiki work that you do, and certainly the Akashic work, is recognizing that you can't really have it both ways. You can't be with the people that you love and call your own, that are your tribe, and say we're one, but somebody else isn't. It doesn't work that way.
You are spot on. I agree with that.
And so you know, it may irritate me to no end that the you know, KGB Agent Orange in the Oval Office is one with me. I would like to think that somebody in the universal body, the cosmic body that we are, someone's got to be the pucker. So might as well be KGB Agent Orange. He gets to be the sphincter of all of humanity. But he's still. But
and look how well he does it.
Yeah, right. I've never seen a sphincter spew more shit than that one. But you know, really and truly, that is
but
what.
I'm not going to welcome him here.
Yeah, no. And I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to. I mean, you don't.
That's the words.
You really wouldn't.
You don't put your. I look at it. You don't put your genitals on the dining room table. You know, there's a time and a place for everything, and that time and a place is not here. I really want to thank you guys for you know, being on the show tonight. We are as irreverent as we are serious, and it's really refreshing, and it's really nice. This was a perfect transition for me to be able to start getting some of that outside energy from outside the LGBT community, from our allies. Because it was something that those of us that have been around the show for the last 3 seasons, you know, have said, you know, why can't we just get folks to say, yeah, I'll be on the show? We had some people say, oh, I don't want to be on the show because people will think I'm gay, and some of them.
They need to join your master class because they're really insecure about who they are.
Well, and a couple of them that said that are. That's why I think they're afraid to be on the show. And we love them, and when they're ready to be on the show, they'll be on the show. But you guys, you know, helped us to break the ice. We've had a couple other guests on the show. You know, just last week, my dear friend and sister Vanessa was on. You know, that you know, is helping us to really get our arms around, as a community, get our arms around why we call this a queer spirituality program. because we recognize that this is queer, that this is not the way that we were raised and taught and drilled into our heads. And my being a retired Eastern Catholic Archbishop, I can, certainly sympathize with what you went through, because I went through it at the pulpit, where people said, there's something evil about him because he only goes to the altar barefoot. And there's something, something happens, something like really weird happens when he consecrates the Eucharist. And then they found out about the Benedicaria, and they found out that we were hiding in plain sight. We were the Stregoneria, that I was, protecting that group of little old ladies that sat in the front of the church were my witches, and that everybody went to them. You had a cold, you went to go see Zia Maria, you went to go see this one, or you went to go see that one. And
it's my grandma.
Yeah, and when somebody's, when we look at somebody as an outsider, somebody today in another group told someone that they were kicking them out of the group because that person was a Christian. And then in another group, I said to someone that she said, I'm getting ready to use the Ouija board or a spirit board, and I want to know if there's anything I should worry about. And all these little, former Bible thumpers were like, don't do it around kids. Don't do it in your own house. Don't do it without casting a circle. And I said, don't do it with pizza in the oven. And I said that there's nothing but baggage. I said that baggage is coming from the Christian tradition. Well, they kicked me out of another group. Because I was like, do you want to cast a circle? Cast a circle. But here's what I'll tell you. Ask the ancestors to be with you and hold your hand or hold your shoulder or surround you, and understand that nobody can hurt you without your permission. Right. So own your energy and have at it. You want to play with the spirit board, or you want to, whatever you want to do. Stop living in a place of fear, because that fear is the energy that's attracting the bad shit. Absolutely. It's not devils and demons and everything else. It's your own devils and demons. Right. So let them go. Let go of the stuff that separates us. And guys, I am so happy to have had this time to share with you guys. Make sure that as soon as we go off, you put your contact info in the comments here, so that when I transcribe this over to YouTube, we'll have all that information in there as well.
Great.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. It was absolutely a pleasure. We'll definitely do this again. You're welcome on the show anytime you'd like.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay. And folks, I want to thank everybody for being here. I appreciate you guys staying a little bit longer. As we say at the end of every one of these broadcasts, and we don't say it just so that we have a clever tagline. We don't say it because we think it's airy-fairy and cutesy, but we really do encourage you to come back to the present moment. No matter what's going on in your life, understand that if you're feeling depressed, your mind is preoccupied with shit that already happened, and that's not real anymore. And chances are what you're remembering didn't really happen that way anyway. It's all about our perception. And when you're filled with anxiety, know that anxiety is because you're projecting what might happen in a future that will never exist. The only place that really exists is right in the present moment. And in the present moment, you're safe. In the present moment, you have the power. And so use that power to bring gratitude in. Use that power to fill your heart with genuine gratitude for the things that you've got, because if you can't be grateful for what you have, there is no reason to imagine you're going to be any happier with more. And always remember, the best is yet to come. We'll talk to you soon. Namaste.